drove down from Darwin to Jabiru with Sab and jumped on a little plane. There was just a few of us, like 5 of us in the plane, and we landed here at Davidson's. So we've just arrived. I've got my own little kind of plunge pool going on at the back here. I've just arrived in my little cabin. So and then this afternoon we're going to grab some lunch and then start heading out to explore what Arnhem Land has to offer. There's lots of amazing rock art here, so yeah, I don't really know where to start with that. I guess, yeah, the storytelling and just learning about, you know, the traditional owners of the land will be, yeah, an amazing privilege, I think, actually. So very excited to go and see it all.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. A lot of people have different theories. Some of them, Gary, I didn't actually see anything. Probably 3 or 4 times at Bamaroo when it gets dry, August, September. I've actually
Well, we had an interesting ride over. We got caught in the rain, all got wet. The what should have been roads were all covered in water, so we're going quite an interesting journey. But we did see a dingo, and we've seen kites, eagles, jabiroos on the way over. So all a great adventure. So now we're heading off to the rock art.
So this one here, we know for a fact the Aboriginals did not know how to make canoes at the time until the Macassans came. So what they did, they had what they call paper bark rafts, okay, or gullyumbi is the name of it. So they'd make it all and then put paper bark or stringy bark as the main one they would use. When the Macassans turned up, they showed them how to do these. And the nicest one, which I'll show you, a couple of massive trees at Bamaroo, a milkwood tree, which is quite easy to get out the inside and quite buoyancy in the way. So beautiful painting. This is meal type catfish, very common catfish down in this waterway, and that's a shag or Australian darter there, and a little figure there. But there is art behind it. There's a figure, there's a head around, so that's the old stuff. Okay, this is more recent time, freshwater period. These ones are here. That's probably only 200 years old. It is because I know with that ochre there. Now handprints, not that one, but a handprint like that one is their signature. Right, that was their signature, and as a traditional owner, children, whatever, would do that here to say, yep. All the internal organs of a person, well, they did the same thing, didn't they? Chopped it up, had a look inside, then put it into book to then put in, because they said, oh, if you do this, it'll be better. And that happened at the beginning of the 19th century or a bit later when the missionaries came.
We've just come out of our first cave, looking at the rock art, and as you can see around here, it's only when you kind of get underneath that you're really going to see anything. So there must be so many examples of rock art around here that haven't been found. Yeah, the cave was absolutely full of the art from different times, thousands of years old. So some of the more recent pictures were quite detailed. Some of the older pieces were just quite faint now. But yeah, there's so much of it to see out here. And not many people are getting out here, so you know, it's amazing to see, to be able to get to see it. The culture, the rituals, their eating habits, all these things were passed on through their art. So yeah, there's so much that I don't know about the culture. Women weren't allowed to paint. Sab's not really sure why. It's just one of those things. A lot of the rituals that the men have to go through. We saw a burial site in there as well. So he explained to us, what happens when they die. So it's just such a different culture.
That's what they use. It's off that sandstone pandanus, and they just make it really fine. I mean, that's not fine because that was a decent rock.
So we're in Western Arnhem Land at the moment. In the whole of Arnhem Land there's about 70, maybe 80 traditional landowners. The area we're in belongs to an old fella called Charlie. He leases out the land to the Davidson's owners, and Sab is a good friend of his. Sab grew up with the Aborigines, so he knows a lot of the old guys. He knows a lot of their ways. He goes out with them, spends time with them, camps with them. So he's a great source of knowledge. The Aborigines have had it tough here in Australia, and that's a massive understatement. Back in '67 they got some rights. They could own land, they could vote, but they've had a lot of struggles, and they still continue to struggle with how to fit in Australia. I knew very little about it, to be honest with you, but obviously I've been learning a lot about about how it all works out here, and how they're treated. Lots of controversy. It's not easy. There's not one necessarily right answer, I guess. So this area is pretty much treasured. I read in a book that it's been described as Arnhem Land is a painted landscape. There is rock art on so many different areas around here. A lot of them are undiscovered. It's even when sort of Sab says he comes out and goes kind of wandering, he's looking under all the rocks and what have you. But this landscape has pretty much been like this. They talk about 40,000 years when the Aborigines were around doing their rock art, and it's not changed. It's all the rock art still here. I'm looking at it. So from then, there's been so many people, millions of Aborigines passed through this area, leaving their mark in the rocks. Talking about their, leaving, I guess, memories, leaving, stories, whether it's political stuff or just family stories. Their handprints are, their signatures. So there's lots of handprints around here. But it's, this area is really not massively visited at all. So it's a real, it really is amazing to be here, to kind of see all of this artwork. Now a lot of the Aborigines, they still paint, but a lot of it's on bark now. They've sort of stopped doing the rock art. But it's still a living culture. The people are still alive. A lot of their traditions and their lifestyles have changed, but a lot of things they're trying to maintain. So I guess it's interesting to know what may happen in the next 10, 15 years. Who knows?